companies that wouldn't otherwise be able to build their projects because they couldn't access credit. It will allow them access to credit because you've taken the price volatility out of the loan.
Right.
So the paladins of the world, the juniors that in the past would have had to pretend they were going to build their deposit and sell it to a major, can now at least pretend with much more certainty. More now. 18 months ago, AI in my hands was a vernacular for artificial idiocy. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to constrain it. So I would ask it a general question, and I would get back a synthesis of the opinions of 500 million morons on X. I haven't made a political contribution. God, how far back? 2008? Before that? I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm a libertarian. And I don't I don't give the Libertarian Party either, because I'm not sure why we should have a party for people who don't believe in politics. A little, but I don't think I have any durable competitive advantages there. In other words, my opinion is just an opinion. So I use that, if you will, as icing on the cake. It forms my prejudice, but my investment decisions are made arithmetically by fundamentals. I try to invest in companies that I think will generate a reasonable return on capital employed. And I try to invest in commodities that are out of favor where I think the price is going to go up. To me, those two things are much more important than geopolitics. I think the next 12 to 24 months are going to be reasonably supportive for the uranium price.
Okay.
And so investors might want to confine themselves to the uranium. We're seeing a few interesting things. Everybody quotes the spot price, but spot volumes are so small, the liquidity so bad, that the spot market isn't really indicative of price levels. The price levels in the contract market are $6 to $8 ahead of the prices in the spot market. In fact, almost every day I look, the trading volumes on the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust are 2 or 3 times this trading volume in the spot market, which is to say the spot market has become the spot market. But people still use the spot market as a reference. It wouldn't surprise. Here's another thing. I wasn't at the World Nuclear Association meetings, but I played the tapes that were available to be played. And that was very interesting. There was a feeling from the podium that even despite the current 30 million pound a year supply deficit, which is to say we're burning 30 million more pounds a year than we're producing, that given estimated inventory levels, and nobody knows what the inventory levels actually are, but given the estimated 200 million pounds of inventory, that we would, with our inventory, amortize our deficit over 5 or 6 years. So there's no immediate need of concern. Now, that was a very interesting statement to me, because assuming that 200 million pounds is more or less right, a number we don't know, we do know that Sprott owns 82 million of those 200 million pounds. And the Sprott pounds aren't for sale. So although that stuff is inventory, it isn't inventory available for purchase.
Right.
Which is to say the inventory available for purchase is 40% less than the market believes. I think that's very interesting. The second factor that people need to take into account is that the uranium market, unlike any other market in the world, commodity market in the world, is going to a contract market, which means that buyers and sellers can, by contract, specify the volume and the price that the transaction will take place at least within a frame of reference, for up to 30 years. That means that a lazy credit analyst like Rick Rule, when he's going to lend money to a uranium producer, doesn't have to guess at the price,
right,
or the volume, and has to guess less at what the free cash flow will be than any other commodity in the world. This will lower the cost of capital for uranium producers, and it will also enable companies that wouldn't otherwise be able to build their projects because they couldn't access credit. It will allow them access to credit because you've taken the price volatility out of the loan.
Right.
So the paladins of the world, the juniors, that in the past would have had to pretend they were going to build their deposit and sell it to a major, can now at least pretend with much more certainty.
Global oil prices often respond more to geopolitical risk than supply fundamentals. One of the most critical choke points is the Strait of Hormuz, where nearly half of the world's seaborne crude exports pass daily. Any disruption, particularly involving Iran, could trigger an immediate and sharp price surge. Even temporary threats, such as mines or missile attacks on tankers, would shock energy markets worldwide. While long-term supply trends remain relatively stable, sudden geopolitical events can rapidly reprice oil. This reality highlights how fragile global energy flows remain, despite technological progress and diversification across producers and regions in today's interconnected economy.
10 years ago, Cameco or Rio Tinto could have said to a junior, I was in the room, they said it, listen, you guys, cut the crap. You can't build this thing, you have to sell it.
Yeah, right.
Now, Paladin can say, well, that's interesting because we just built one. We financed it, we built it. We're not adverse to selling it, but don't believe that we have to only sell it to you.
Yeah.
It isn't our balance sheet we're taking to the bank. We're taking Tokyo Electric Power's balance sheet. We're taking Duke Power's balance sheet. We're taking the Southern Company balance sheet to the bank. So don't talk to us about what we can do, because we can absolutely positively do it. Buy us if you want, but pay up.
Right.
Not a futures market, a contract market. It's important to note the difference.
What is
in a futures market, you buy and sell options on uranium, and you settle intermittently with margin. In this circumstance, it's not an open market, it's a private contract between a utility and a producer. And it specifies volumes and terms within a reference. And unlike a futures market, the strip usually goes out 2 years. These contracts now are going up far enough that power producers can use them to amortize the capital cost of nuclear power plants, which is to say 20 years. So you have price certainty, not for 2 years, and not with an unnamed counterparty, but with a named counterparty. In the futures market, your counterparty might first of all be a uranium trader with no balance sheet at all, in which case you have a recourse to the broker who arranged the trade. Not always a good thing. In the contract market, you have access to at least AA credits. Southern Company, Duke Power, Tokyo Electric Power, China General Nuclear. Very, very different transaction.
Despite constant geopolitical headlines, experienced investors prioritize measurable fundamentals. Investment decisions rely primarily on production costs, supply shortages, and long-term demand growth rather than unpredictable political events. Commodities often experience cycles driven by underinvestment and delayed supply responses. When prices remain low for extended periods, companies reduce exploration and development, eventually creating shortages. This imbalance drives future price increases. Investors focus on assets capable of generating strong returns on capital, especially when markets undervalue them. By emphasizing mathematics and financial performance instead of speculation, disciplined investors position themselves ahead of major commodity price shifts and structural economic transformations worldwide.
More now. 18 months ago, AI in my hands was a vernacular for artificial idiocy. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to constrain it. So I would ask it a general question, and I would get back a synthesis of the opinions of 500 million morons on X.
Right.
Not really useful. What AI does for me now is, in terms of financial analysis, I confine my search ellipsoid to, as an example, Edgar and CEDAR, financial databases where if you lie, it's a felony. And I ask it questions that are of value to me, and I allow it to do the clerical function. As an example, I didn't do this. A student of mine at the Rule Classroom did it for me. I rely a lot on younger people so that I get artificial intelligence as opposed to artificial ignorance. And we asked AI to search every government-run securities database, financial database in the world, and list for us every company that was selling with negative enterprise value, which is to say their working capital was greater than their market capitalization plus their total debt, where those companies were cash flow positive. This is precisely the work that I used to do in the early 70s for Peter Cundall. And it would take me sort of an average of 4 days per company to do this. It would take me longer to identify them and then to do the analysis. AI had that done for us in about 4 minutes. Had I been able to do it myself, it would have taken me 5 years, and of course the financials all would have changed before. Now, what AI can't do yet is understand the unexploded bombs. Some of these companies were so cheap because, as an example, they had overhanging litigation, or, it couldn't do the sort of balance sheet detail that I'm able to do. But what it was able to do is take 70,000 public companies in the world and synthesize that down to 70 companies that met my search parameters. And it was able to do it really, really quickly.
Right.
As I get better as I get better understanding the complexities of AI, that's wrong. As I identify better the people who can help me use AI, it's going to become important.
Yeah.
Also in terms of what you and I do, I was teasing Albert Liu, who runs Rule Investment Media, that with AI, all the editing and production functions, all the stuff that he does are going to become redundant.
Yeah.
And he said, that's funny, Rick. I was just thinking about that. I could train AI on your imagery and the way they think, and I could Rick Rule after I killed off the real one, and the quality would probably improve if I said to AI, be Rick but less smug,
Uranium is gaining renewed importance as countries expand nuclear power to secure reliable, carbon-free electricity. Demand is already exceeding supply by millions of pounds annually, creating a persistent deficit. Although inventories temporarily mask shortages, much of that supply remains unavailable for purchase. Meanwhile, long-term contracts between utilities and producers provide pricing certainty for decades. This structure allows mining companies to secure financing more easily, accelerating production development. As nations pursue energy security and reduce dependence on fossil fuels, nuclear power is returning to prominence. Uranium markets are strengthening quietly, supported by structural demand rather than short-term speculative trading activity today.
Into energy.
I'm not an AI investor.
Sorry?
I'm not an investor in AI per se.
But you kind of are, indirectly.
No, I'm a customer, to be sure.
Well, but I'm talking about commodities.
Yeah, here's one thing that we can do in exploration that's really cool. For years, we've been looking at coincidence anomalies, meaning astroimagery from space, spectral differentiation, macrostructure, geochem, soil surveys, all this kind of stuff. And what you would do is you would compile all this data by hand. In my day, literally with a vellum that young people don't know what it is, and then overlay these things on each other and look for areas where there were coincidence anomalies. AI can search and tabulate data better, quicker. It doesn't know how to make a mistake in terms of data assembly if the data is good. And if you program it for the type of correlation that you're looking for, geographic correlation, it could do it instantaneously. So if you are exploring for copper-gold porphyries in northern Chile, something that we've done for 150 years by walking across northern Chile, you can compile a bunch of different data sets covering different types of germane data, and then you can purge the results. And you take, say, 2,000 square kilometers of northern Chile, and you throw out 1,920 of those square kilometers. You don't have to walk those. Now, that's enormously important. That's really, really hugely important. You can also take the dip that you get in a drill hole and project that information against surface information that you have for the surrounding 10 square miles and much more accurately predict what the dip in the hole that you're drilling represents in a regional context.
Mm-hmm.
The way that we've done that hitherto is got a hunch, bet a bunch. And we have access to much better hypotheses now as a consequence of AI. It can make incomprehensible mistakes, but that's only because you ask it the wrong question or feed it the wrong data.
Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing how companies explore for critical minerals like copper, gold, and uranium. Previously, geologists spent years analyzing geological surveys manually. Today, AI systems can analyze vast data sets in minutes, identifying promising exploration targets with unprecedented speed and accuracy. This efficiency reduces costs and improves discovery rates, accelerating resource development. However, AI cannot replace human judgment entirely. It enhances analysis but still depends on accurate data and experienced interpretation. As global demand for minerals rises due to electrification, artificial intelligence is becoming an essential tool, enabling faster discovery while supporting the future expansion of global energy and technology infrastructure.
The answer to that is yes, but I think at present it's the fourth or fifth most important variable.
Okay.
I think the cost of capital will become more important, probably is more important now. I think the social take, which is to say taxes, are and will be more important.
Now you're talking about specifically to the commodity price.
To commodity supplies.
Okay.
On a global basis, governments look at increased commodity prices and they want to steal more of it. And that is of more immediate positive or negative impact than AI at present. The third really is access. The big deposits that remain in the world are in places that we haven't looked for them for the most part. And to the extent that we have the courage and are given permission, the big copper deposits, as an example, the really big ones, are likely to be found in Central Asia, as an example.
They're not in Greenland? I'm joking. All right.
Mr. Trump is highly amusing. I don't know what geology school he went to, but it wasn't prominent.
All right. So they're all in Central Asia, and they're in all areas.
The point is that a lot of places that are easy to explore have been explored. That doesn't mean that we won't find more big copper deposits in Chile. What it means is that the deposits that we find, we aren't going to find by literally stumbling over them in our work boots. They're going to be buried. They're going to be deep.
Right.
They're going to be expensive. The only deposits that we're going to find that you can literally stumble over, and despite what geologists tell you, that's how we find things. It's resistive rock. It sticks out of the ground a little bit, and we stumble over it. The only good ones of those that we're going to find are going to be found in areas that we haven't been able to look for before, or we haven't known how to look for before. And so political and social access and overcoming our own prejudices as to where we're willing to look and why are going to be more important in the next 10 years than AI.
Mm.
The greatest barriers to commodity supply are often political rather than technological. Many of the world's largest untapped deposits lie in regions with regulatory, political, or logistical challenges. Even when valuable resources exist, government policies, taxation, and environmental restrictions can delay or prevent development. Rising commodity prices often attract higher government intervention, reducing incentives for investment. Additionally, most easily accessible deposits have already been discovered, leaving deeper and more expensive resources remaining. These structural challenges limit supply growth. As global demand continues rising, political access and regulatory environments will increasingly determine which countries control future resource production and economic influence.
I haven't made a political contribution. God, how far back? 2008? Before that? I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm a libertarian. And I don't usually, well, I don't give the Libertarian Party either, because I'm not sure why we should have a party for people who don't believe in politics. That notwithstanding, I've been a huge beneficiary of American culture. An important part of American culture is process and the rule of law.
Right.
Another important part of American culture is that at least we paid lip service to the taxpayers getting value for money. The last conventional candidate I voted for was Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan ran in a campaign of reducing the size of government. I'm a good friend of David Stockman, the person he hired to do that. David Stockman wrote a book called The Triumph of Politics. And David Stockman pointed out that the Reagan Revolution wasn't. The only thing that Reagan did was he reduced the size of growth of the government. He never reduced the size of government. There appear to be three elected officials in Washington, who are honest enough to say to the American public, regardless of how much you like a certain service, we can't afford the same level of service. We have to shrink the size of government because arithmetically it's unsustainable. Thomas Massey goes farther than that. He said, regardless of the outcome, whether I want the outcome or not, the rule of law and the process by which we obtain that outcome is important.
Very important.
One of the most dangerous drifts in American politics, I think, began with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which was the manipulation of the system, whether by packing the court or by executive order or executive decree,
right,
that you obviated the balance of power between the executive, the legislature, and the courts. I suggest that the current sophistication around executive order was probably done by Obama, but it's being done today on a level that was unimaginable, even in the Obama days. Process is important to me. The rule of law is important to me. As critical as I am about the United States, and I have the right to be, I'm a big taxpayer, it is still arguably, for most people, not for me, but for most people, the best society on the planet. And I would like to see some of those advantages continue.
Right.
I will never be able to elect a candidate that I'm really, truly enthusiastic about. But I remember giving money to Harry Brown. I guess it was 2008, something like that. I didn't give money to Harry Brown because I thought he could win. I gave money to Harry Brown because I thought he was an extremely effective propagandist for a point of view that I wanted heard. Unlike Harry Brown, Massey, I think, can and will get reelected. And I think that Massey will articulate aspects of the American political culture that are in danger and are important. I heard Thomas Massey say something I haven't heard in mainstream politics for 20 years, which is that even services and projects that he was in favor of have to be attenuated because the size of the goods and services offered up by the U.S. government are unaffordable to this and future generations, and that we have to deal with that now. I have a speech I give, you can see it at my website, called The Arithmetic of America. This isn't a Democratic speech, it's not a Republican speech. It talks about the net present value of our debt, the net present value of our entitlements, and the probability that we can maintain the current level of spending without a default. Spoiler alert, that's nil. And it's important that somebody in Washington make that point and do whatever they can. Because he's extremely inconvenient to Trump, and he's inconvenient to Trump from a part of the political spectrum that Trump didn't think he had problems with, there is an enormous sum of money arrayed against him. And to the extent that I can give a little bit of my money to defend my own voice being heard, I'm going to do it. And to the extent that I can use whatever prestige I have among 500 million of my closest friends at X, I'm going to do that too.
New financial institutions are emerging to serve investors seeking alternatives to traditional banking systems. Some banks now allow customers to use gold and precious metals as loan collateral, providing liquidity without requiring asset sales. This approach reflects growing interest in tangible assets amid inflation and financial uncertainty. Unlike traditional loans backed by property, precious metals offer faster liquidation and reduced credit risk. Meanwhile, many conventional banks continue paying minimal interest on deposits, encouraging competition from innovative alternatives. As financial systems evolve, institutions that combine modern technology with hard asset backing may reshape banking, offering greater flexibility and security for future investors.
By for way higher than FDR. Way higher than FDR. That's why I kept calling Trump FDR 2.0.
And Trump publicly admires FDR.
Yeah.
He said, quote, he never lets process get in the way of product.
Yeah, that's a problem for me, at least.
Yep.
And I think at the end of the day, for me, having a politician, whether you completely agree with them or not, is not really the point. It's having people in positions of leadership that prioritize principles.
Correct.
Principles. And I think Thomas Massey has proven over and over and again, just like Ron Paul, that he is someone that has a moral North Star, but a principled North Star. Correct. That he will not deviate from. And we need a lot more of that.
Yeah, he said he's willing to lose by process. In other words, he doesn't believe that his point of view is one that he has the right to superimpose on the American public, even if it's his point of view. I would suggest of 530 people in Congress, that there are 3 that share his perspective.
Yeah. Rick, tell us what is going on with Battle Bank.
Well, George, thank you for asking me. I mean, first of all, we're banking. I mean, what a relief.
There we go.
It's got to be
5 years, Rick, right?
5 years trying to get permission to bank. And finally, we did what I should have done 5 years ago, which is say we bought a little bank.
Yeah, right.
We asked the FDIC's permission to put a bunch of money in it. They kindly said yes. And we're no banking. We are right now banking with our own money, which is to say opening deposits from shareholders, although we're going out to the wait list right now.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure that your deposit got deposited, that if you wrote a check, that it would cash, that if you sent a wire, it would wire. So we've been breaking in the systems with our own money.
Yeah, beta testing, basically, right?
Yeah, we began to go out to the shareholders and then to the wait list on Monday. While we've been waiting, operating a little tiny bank in Uppsala, Minnesota, the only branch that we will ever have, we have activated our gold lending business. In our gold lending business, for those of your listeners who don't know, we believe gold, silver, and platinum and palladium are good collateral. They're businesses that we know well, and we know the community well. So for borrowers who have a lot of capital tied up in gold and silver and don't want, for whatever reason, including paying capital gains tax, to sell that bullion, if they have capital needs, we offer people the ability to use their bullion as collateral to obtain working capital. Thus far, the primary borrowers from us have been builders, people who have periodic working capital needs and don't want to have to sell their gold or silver to fund those working capital needs. That business is already up and running on a national basis. But we will, after the next 30 or 45 days, really roll out as a national bank. The lovely news, George, when we opened EverBank in the year 2000, for those of you who remember, EverBank was one of the first branchless banks in the U.S. We were able to grow that bank over, 14, 15 years from $0 to $28 billion. Pretty good growth. Day one, when we opened the bank, we had a 0 customer backlog.
Yes,
None.
Rick.
Partially because we had 5 years running time this time, and because we're very noisy. And because the customers that were our customers at Everbank, 275,000 of them missed us, we opened this bank with a backlog of 22,000 people on the wait list. So we're expecting a pretty good first year.
I would say. Is there a minimum for the deposits?
Minimum for deposit, $10,000.
Okay.
I should tell you, there's $3 trillion on deposit in American banks, mostly in checking accounts, that doesn't get paid interest.
Right.
This is idiotic. I mean, this sounds like a slogan. I guess it is. If you're interested in interest, think Battle Bank. We don't have 15 or 20 deposit products designed to confuse you. We got one. It's a high yield account, and you could write checks against it. Why on earth would you deposit money with a bank that didn't pay you interest? This is the height of stupidity.
How much do you guys pay on it?
Pardon me?
How much do you guys pay on it?
We're sort of, we're best quartile in the market, so sort of 3.75 on your checking.